right, we're determined to be the only people somehow mustering a smile. Maybe we can laugh at ourselves a bit after that. But oh my gosh, like just the where do you start? Like the levels of just kind of like when Ange needed the senior players to step up and buy him a game. I think wow, they did the opposite today. And look, it's not all on the players. You know, we've got to acknowledge there's system issues as well and things like that. But my word, what did you make of it anyway, Joe?
Well, I'm just hoping someone else is here to listen to us talk you through the misery. That's the first thing. And the happiness or the whatever emotions you're feeling right now, I guess. It's one of those ones where it's kind of like we sort of had written off somewhat the Premier League this year, and then it still just hurts. Doesn't it? Like it still just is like, I wish we'd still won, even though I kind of doesn't really mean anything. But it's just the performance levels of the players that kind of just brought us down there, and just some mistakes, a lot of mistakes. We made Wolves look really good, even though they didn't really do anything other than just take the chances that we just said, here you go, have a nice 4-goal game that you just I guess they deserve it, I guess. But what do you think?
Like the bit that concerned me is that I felt we had opportunities and like, we scored obviously and stuff, but they came when Wolves would sit back, we'd get ourselves back in the game. And the Wolves would go, we better get our lead back, actually. We'd just turn it on for 5 minutes, get their goal, and then just sit back again. It was almost like a tiger playing with its prey, like it had a helpless lamb. And it was just like, you can get up and run around a bit now. We're like, yay, we're back. We're having a little play around. And then it was just like, oh, actually, you're not doing that. And just like pounce back on us and just put us back in our
I think
spot.
A better analogy would have been a wolf playing with a little chicken, to be honest.
Yes, a wolf playing with a chicken would have been a better one. And just like letting it get up and run around for a bit and then just like jumping on us again. And it's not, and like, I do think, on a serious note though, I do think Vicario is a good signing, and I really think he's got a future at Spurs and all that stuff. But today was probably his worst ever, 20-minute period in a Tottenham shirt, when I think Ange needed him more than ever to not have a bad 20 minutes. Look, but that's not an excuse, I think.
The punch should have been further away, but it was a shin shot that bounced in the ground, and he tried to dive, and I guess Davis somewhat got in his way to try and make the save, but I don't think he would have got there. And the second one, I don't know what he was meant to do other than what he did. Like, was he not meant to save it and it was just going to go in? So, like, I don't know. But, it was weird to dive the other way when Cunha just like, it's a penalty. I'm just going to take one side and see what happens. But, it was like pretty much across the board. So Burwell comes on and like, he carries the ball up the field and plays Johnson in. He puts a good cross in, and then a couple of minutes later, he tries to take on someone basically as the last man. So it's just maybe the players' minds are in Thursday, but a few of them were playing that game.
And Sai, hello, mate.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Good to see you. Good to see you. Still decorating the new room. We've got a nice picture.
Yeah.
Sai, I felt like, where was I going with this? About to ask you a question. I feel like for the first time ever, and we've been staunch protectors of Ange and stuff.
Yeah.
The players weren't playing for him today. For the first time ever. Not all of them. Some of them were, because they're all model pros. But the first time ever, I felt some of them were like, because they were like, the way when we were losing, when we'd like misplaced past something, you'd see them like laughing and like pointing to each other. I was like, that's not the faces of people who are like, holy shit, we've got to protect the gaffer. Like, we've got to win this game, otherwise his job's at risk. It just didn't get that vibe. I don't know how you read it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to read, isn't it? And it's becoming more and more difficult to defend the boss, really, isn't it? It really is. 17 defeats in a season. You've got a full team back now. They've been back for weeks. This isn't like the first time these players are playing together. He's had them back for weeks. He's had time with them. And from the off, we looked like we had no shape. We didn't know what we were doing. Were we pressing? Were we dropping deep? Were we hitting on the break? What if we were? And this persistence of not just playing out from the back, but playing the football at the back. to what end? Sometimes,
Mm.
you know, we play it back across, and the point of that is to draw them on to hit them on the break. But we never do that because when we break the lines, you get it out. You're getting it out wide to Spence and Tell. Tell would be making a break, and Spencer just turn back inside and play it back inside to Ben Davis and Romero. And I was waiting for the stats to update. I haven't seen the final stats, but I would hazard a guess that Romero was one of the highest touches on the pitch today. And did what with it though? We don't do anything with that tactic, and we seem to have no urgency. We had no urgency, no drive.
He had a couple of good. He's very good at breaking the lines, Romero, as forward passing. He had a few moments where they came off, but I get what you mean. You go forward and you're
then it comes straight back to. It ends up straight back at Vic.
Yeah.
It's
kind of don't do anything with it.
It's kind of the opposite of what Brendan Johnson does. Like Brendan Johnson scores goals and he's a forward, so he's meant to score goals, but he doesn't sort of. People criticize him for not getting back. I don't really buy into that, but people do criticize him for that. Where Romero is the opposite. He is a brilliant passer, but defensively. Consistently, this isn't the first time something like this has happened with Romero. And it was kind of just weak. He, if anyone, I would think the first person on the name of the list of people that have sort of given up on Ange, I think Romero might be the top of that list.
It's not the first time we're having a conversation. Before he got injured, Jim, we were having conversations at the ground about how many goals has Romero cost us in that first 10 games of the season. I think it was 3 or 4 goals. Quite comfortably, you could have put down to him in the opening quarter of the season. So, and that goal today was just lazy. It was lazy from him.
Yeah, I mean, what you've got no hope in a game as a manager when your goalkeeper's given away 2 goals and your centre back's giving away a third.
Yeah.
Like you need a miracle because typically, if you average 2 goals every game over the course of the season, you probably win the league with a good defence. You just score 2 goals every week, and it should be enough to secure a minimum of a point.
Yeah,
you can score 2, but when you've given away 3 goals in that manner, you're just even the 4th. Really, I just thought like you just saw it coming. You just knew it was coming, and you knew it was going to fall to when he came on the pitch.
Of course, it was all day long, all day long. But the thing is, right? You know, you're saying about the defence, but we were sort of, you know, not bigging up the defence, but we were defending the defence, if you like. A little while ago, but now we have the 6th worst defence in the league.
Yeah, it's gone massively down.
Brighton have conceded the same amount of goals as us, but the only teams that have conceded more goals than us are the 5 below us.
Yeah, that's
other than Brighton, bad. And we're equal with Brighton. So this goal difference fallacy that we've got at the moment, it's only because we've scored so many goals when we've won. That's why our goal difference is so high. Our defence isn't as good as what we think it is,
No, it's not. So, and individually, they are good players too, which is that's why, I mean, we've all been big supporters of Ange, but I'm a supporter of Spurs first, and I want what's best for Tottenham, and
that's it, isn't it?
I don't I'm not hurt by me being if he's sacked in 2 minutes time. I'm not hurt by me being wrong about wanting him here. That's not a problem at all. I couldn't care less if I'm wrong. But it's more though. It's just a shame that it hasn't worked out, and it doesn't kind of feel like it will right now. It doesn't, especially if we go through.
And it's a shame. Like I think it's epitomized by. There's some like when we're engaged with hundreds of people on various social media channels watching live chats going off right now, and WhatsApps on the YouTube, on Twitter, and all these things we've got going because we obviously do the podcast with lots of Tottenham people, and there is quite a large number who were quite they were delighted when the 4th goal went in. It was like almost like laughing, jovial, kind of like I get it's a bit taking the mick out of yourselves in a bad situation. There's a bit of that, just a bit of having a bit of a laugh. But there was also definitely an air of, yes, I was right. He hasn't worked out.
Told you.
I don't like that. It was a bit like, I don't like on the other side as well, when it's like every time we got a victory, it's like, look at the morons now. Who's laughing now? Ange has got you by the curlies now. Like, I just wish we'd all just unify behind whoever it is. I hope he gets till Thursday, even if he doesn't, if it's Mason or whatever. We just could all just fly behind whoever it is. But that just raised the question. What we were discussing before, so if we went live, if they've made the decision that this isn't going to work, like regardless of the Europa now.
Yeah.
Like, does Levy just go, look, let's leave him to it until the Europa plays out, or does he go, I've got a better chance making a change now? Do you think?
I think
You've been in a relationship with Levy for 30 years, so go on.
Yeah,
we all have.
Abusive relationship with Daniel Levy for 30 years. I'm not sure what benefit there is in getting rid of him before Thursday. I don't know. I don't think you get a Ryan Mason bounce for Thursday. Then you get into the question about what's the point in getting rid of him before the end of the season? I mean, what's the upside really? I think it's getting more and more difficult to see him here at the end of the season unless we go on and win it. And I think he needs to win it. And the last 5 or 6 games of the season need to be quality performances. Even if they're not wins, you need to see. Like today, it just wasn't a performance. And how many times we come away from either from the ground or watching it on the TV saying it's not even about the result, it's about the performance. I mean, and that today, once we went 1 down, we never ever looked like getting back into that game.
No, and that is the chat. It's that I think there's been, again, I defend the bit I defend about Ange is like when people call him a clueless moron who doesn't know what he's doing. I completely disagree. I think he's a well-qualified coach. He understands sports science. He understands tactics, all those things. I think where he's made his biggest mistake was coming into Spurs and being like, I can do that with this squad. I can do that at the Premier League with the squad of those players right off the bat. I only need a couple of transfer windows to do it. And I'm sure if he had Liverpool's squad, I'm sure we'd be looking at that going, you know what? Wow, they'd be blowing teams away more weeks than not. They wouldn't be having all these defensive errors. They would have, they have the world's probably best ball playing goalkeeper, wouldn't be making these errors, all those things. But we don't have that. And I think the counter argument is when you don't have that, don't do it because, so it's a tough one.
There's also something about Slot and his management style or management techniques. He's got one of the lowest injury rates in the Premier League as well, and they play quite a high intensity type of football. And he had the same at his previous club. And there's something in that as well, that he's been able to keep the players fresh, rotate them where he needed to, except for the FA Cup where they went out badly. But there's something about that backroom setup as well that I know that they're trying to rectify. And it's like we said before, Jim, there's no easy answer to this complex question. The new CEO coming in, how much of a difference does that make? How much?
Oh, massive.
How much difference does it make to the management of Scott Munn and the recruitment department by having him in? And let's remember, Scott Munn only came in August last year.
Yeah.
He hasn't even been there a year yet because they held him to his garden leave, etc., and all of that malarkey. So you don't change the setup of an organisation and therefore the culture of an organisation in 9 months. It just doesn't happen.
And we were discussing just before we went live, the new CEO's timing is going to have a huge impact on Levy's next step, because I can't see a world in which you employ someone as a CEO to run all your football decisions and then you choose the manager for them 2 months before they start.
Nope.
So it's more a case of, does he get an interim and let Ange go, or does he stick with Ange? And I think he should stick, because there is still a world. It's a glimmer. It's a tiny glimmer. And glimmer kind of insinuates as a bias because I want it to happen. And there is a little bit of bias there, because it would be a dream for it to happen that you win the Europa League and we win our last 5 games in the league. And suddenly everyone goes, actually, maybe it could work. You give them some more time, but most likely 90% chance that's not going to happen. I think that the best case scenario for Ange is he wins the Europa League and can say, I'm walking away on mutual consent, as technically our most successful manager in 25 years.
I kind of felt the most likely situation is if we did win it. I mean, I'm a very hopeful person in general. I am, and I really want us to win it, but I just can't get around the fact that I don't think we're even going to go through tomorrow. But don't listen to my negativity. But in the chat, who was it? Mentioning it was Boo Daddy Boo about the backroom staff and novices in his coaching staff. I actually thought that when it's weird that he changes staff every time he comes in. You want some chemistry, I think, and because you run the risk if you bring someone in new every time, a whole team that it's not going to be as high quality.
Mhm.
So I think that I find it a strange tactic, but I mean, we really have no idea sort of what part of the recipe is causing the soup to taste bad, really, do we? Like it's just
No.
so. But
I agree with you there, Joe. I think it is a bit strange that he comes in and sort of sticks with the backroom staff that are at the club at the time, or he brings in some new people from outside. There's not a lot of top managers do that. Most top managers take their backroom staff with them wherever they go, right? Hey up, Stu.
All right,
Stu. You in the UK
right.
again?
I'm in the UK again.
That's a Burnley.
I was
that's
gonna say
the same one.
That's
That's
a
the
Burnley
Burnley
Welsh
background.
dresser. It's a Burnley Welsh dresser right there.
Yeah.
Hey up, son.
Billy makes a good point there, guys. Birkinshaw did see us relegated. And
Different times, Jimmy, different times.
I know. I'm not saying that's justification for this, but I am saying there is. Yeah, just reading out our members' points, really.
It's a fair comment, but it's very different times, eh?
Yeah, it is a different world now. Yeah, so
then,
Vic, you're Italian.
Jim, if he don't, sorry, Jim, just on the manager topic, just to close out before we go on to Calamity James in goal. Where do we go in the summer then? If we don't win the Europa League, which chance it very, very slim. I mean, we're clutching at straws for that, right? So we don't win the Europa League. We finish 15th, 14th, maybe.
If we're lucky.
Who comes to us?
Go on, Stu. I'll let you answer.
No, I don't think that it's that hard a project to sell. I mean, we're not going for the Contes or the Mourinhos anymore, but I think it can be easily explained to any manager that we're after that this year was a disaster due to injuries, etc. And the real level is more last season where we finished 5th and we're very close to 4th. We still had a great run to a semi-final in a domestic cup. We got to a minimum quarter-final in a Europa Cup. The youngsters got a lot of experience. We will invest another 100 million in the summer. I don't think it's an awful project to sell.
I agree.
But then why don't you stick with Ange then?
Because he's shown that clearly defensively things are not good.
Yeah, I think if you put Ange into the finished article of a squad like Man City squad or Liverpool squad, I'm sure the system would have the players to get away with that super high risk, high octane type football. But at this phase of a project we're in, it just appears like the squad's not capable of pulling it off. So we need someone who's going to take a lot of it back to basics and abandon those principles that Ange obviously can't abandon because he said why. You can't just. Yeah, go on.
Do you think any squad in the Premier League could play that high tempo, high football that we do, given the quality? I mean, you just saw the quality of some of the Wolves forward play today. When we gave them the space, which is what our system does, right? It leaves acres of space. That's the risk. And I'm not sure that there's any team in the Premier League, any defence in the Premier League could cope with that against some of the strike force. And that's maybe where, not that Ange is getting found out, but that's where maybe his defiance to change things up is catching him out a little bit, because it's one mistake and you're punished in this league.
Just look at, I watched Match of the Day this morning, and just look at how Crystal Palace were cutting City open yesterday.
Yeah.
And they've got top players. I think, as you said, Si, the league level is so high. And you've got to have the players, playing at optimum, maximum concentration. And, we've seen it time and time again. Today it was Vic's turn, but Romero, I mean, how many mistakes has he made this season?
Yeah.
We were saying that just before you got on. We were having this conversation at the start of the season, Stu, right?
Yeah.
And just to be clear, PPT, we're not saying, like we said at the start, we don't buy into he's clueless, idiot, doesn't know tactics, blah blah blah.
No,
stuff.
not at all.
We're not buying. We're not saying that in any way at all. We think he's a clever guy. He's obviously a very good coach of what he's done, but we just said it hasn't worked for loads of reasons. Some is luck, some is self-induced.
Yeah.
And
but today wasn't us about pressing high and leaving the line, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't what happened today. That was 4 cock-ups today.
Correct.
Mm.
Yeah. I have a conspiracy theory, guys.
Oh yeah, go on. We love it.
Love a
conspiracy.
Did you see that Glasner comment?
No.
He made.
No, go on.
So he lost to City 4-2, and they said, "Oh, you've got City coming up in the FA Cup as well," and he said, "Exactly." And I've already told Pep that now I know his system and now I know how he plays. He better not play that way again against me, otherwise we'll beat them. I felt that was like look at me, Mr. Adaptable, because he's the number one name linked with us all the time. And I have another theory. He would come in and he would say, okay, goodbye, because I think Kulusevski's going to leave. And I just think not because he's a bad player. I'm getting a vibe he doesn't really want to. I could be wrong.
Where are you getting that vibe from other than your head?
Why is my phone going off? Getting an advert about Easter eggs on my phone.
Easter eggs, mate.
He made those comments, didn't he? On he made some. It was after one of the games we lost about Ange, and he kind of like had a dig about the system and the squad not playing up to a level that he needed. Do you not remember that? Well, maybe I'm making up. Anyway,
he said like he really liked playing this way.
Yeah,
maybe I'm just making it all up. I have this theory that either him or Maddison would be sold, and then Glasner would bring in Eze for his release clause. And I just kind of had this thing in my head. There was a pattern that was going to happen. But
is his release clause activated again next summer or this summer?
Oh, is it expired? Is it?
I don't know. I just remember last year.
Did he not sign a new deal?
Don't know. Well, my conspiracy theory is clearly rubbish, but I have a weird feeling that if the decision's made to change, Glasner would be the one. And I just got a vibe from that interview that he was kind of doing a little bit of flirting with kind of saying, I'm exactly what you need. Because he's got the same model in Palace. It's sign really good young players, but in Palace they have to give them affordable release clauses to convince those players to join them. At Spurs, it'd be like Palace with much more money, and you can hold on to those players a couple more seasons than they can. And I wonder if he just sees that. And I don't know. I just see it as a relatively safe appointment.
On your deep dive into our new CEO, what's his track record for appointing managers?
His previous, I've done a video on this, his previous roles at Arsenal, because he's there a long time, I think 14 years. He started off in the commercial side. So he was part of the revenue growth from 300 million to I think 600 million as a club. And then he ran the women's football for a bit. And then when he moved into the CEO role, he brought in Raul and Edu and Arteta. That was his thing. And he sat through that from 2019 to 2024 before leaving. So his track record was project-based manager, sticking with it. He's much more heavily engaged with fans. That's his leadership style. So he ran 4 fan forums a year. And he would explain to the fans what the vision was of where they were going through on the pathway and all that kind of stuff. So I think we'd expect him to either stick with Ange and say patience is a virtue and explain why, or he'll get someone else in and say we're sticking with this person now for 4+ years. So,
what do you think about if he does move Ange on before the season ends? Is it just Mason? Is that our only option?
But would it be Mason or would it be Wells? Because Mason's not even assistant.
I was more so just think, potentially. But I was just thinking, he's done it before and he's more so part of the club than the rest of the guys. But would it be the backroom staff, do you think, if they do move him on? Or is it just... Because, I mean, if we lose to Frankfurt, which away in Germany, in that atmosphere, because we showed when we went to Turkey that with this young squad, the atmosphere absolutely wrecks us. Like, we can't handle that sort of stuff. So I'm not confident about that. I hope we win, but I'm just not confident. So if we go that with us, there's literally nothing to play for the rest of the year. So is it even worth hanging on to him for the rest of the year if we go out next week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's just like, where on the scale do you want to be? In a lot of ways, there's no point getting rid of him. Why? And then at the other end of the scale, there's no point keeping him because there's nothing to play for. So I think it's a bit of a moot point. I don't think anyone would make a difference. And I think it's to your point, Joe. We would, come to me 3 months ago, and we were Ange in all the way, right? And I'm not necessarily Ange out now, but I'm sort of Ange indifferent. To your point, if he got sacked tonight, I'd be like, yeah, well, he's brought it on himself. Really, I can't really. I'm finding it more and more difficult to defend him week after week after week when I see performances like that. When you see the team set up from the start, they didn't seem to know what they were doing today. They didn't seem to have a style of play. They didn't know where to be on the pitch at certain times.
In the first half, there was a moment where Jed Spence and Archie Gray were playing a triangle with each other in their final third. That is like and then we just have so much space on one end of the field. Like it's so risky to do things like that. Is to send your left back to play as a right back while your right back's still there. But I mean, there's obviously again mistakes today was the reason why we lost. But it's more. I'm talking about this more so it just seems like the players are now slowly just drifting away from it. Nothing that's ever going to come out in public, but it just it kind of feels like one of those things. Do you know
I think MS makes a point there that we're sort of trying to make without being so obvious about it. They do look uncoached at the moment. They don't look like they've got a game plan when they go out.
I think
they did against Frankfurt. Well, back end of the first half, second half, they did against Frankfurt.
Two people have said it. So
too many
defeated ourselves.
Yeah,
twice.
we did. We did defeat ourselves. We did.
But that's just as bad as being beaten. It's worse.
Yeah, we've done it so many times. At a certain point, you've got to think maybe it's more than just bad luck.
Yeah, we almost did it against Southampton last week. For God's
About
sake.
a month ago, we were the most errors leading to goals, and that would have just skyrocketed even further. That gap, errors leading to goals.
Yeah,
and I mean, that who is that on? Is that because these players are good players? When I look at our squad on paper, I think we have some really, really good players. They're young, a lot of them, and they're inexperienced, and that turns out in positioning. And especially when you play such high risk football, the young players aren't as experienced enough to be able to sort of see the bigger picture as much. So it's harder to play that high risk because it's you can see moments where someone will try to pass the ball back into the middle, and the midfielder have already got further forward than the ball is, because it's just that sort of.
Where would you rank our squad in the league? Like, if everyone had the same, like if Formula One is all down to the car, if everyone had the same driver, everyone had the same manager playing a very standard way of football, but just different squads. I know that's impossible to happen, but where do you think this squad would finish in, Joe? And I ask everyone this question: where do you think it ranks?
The Premier League's really good at the moment. I think there's a lot of really good players and a lot of look at Crystal Palace. We're just talking about them. There's a lot of players we'd take from them, but it's hard to say it because we've been so poor. But I think top.
Let's say no one has any injury. No one has any major injuries. Like everyone's the same.
I think it's still Europe level. I think it's definitely still in the European places, whether that's conference or not.
So like 6th or 7th, basically.
Something like that.
Or 5th, 6th, 7th.
And I think it could push to 4th if we got 2 or 3 senior elite players, which we can afford. And I feel like that's the plan for the club to do now that we've set our base up to be able to sort of push the boat out and bring in those high level players. But yeah, probably 6th, 7th, 8th, something like that.
Yeah. Anyone else disagree? Stu, Si, where would you rank the squad?
I find it really difficult because I don't know the quality of the other squads. And then I watch Match of the Day and there'll be a player I've never heard of that just looks top dollar that's playing for Bournemouth as a 19-year-old sub, and there's so much money in this league at the moment that outside those bottom 3, every team has got 2 or 3 real quality players that they seem to turn up against us every week. But it's a difficult one to call, but I would certainly say top 6, top 7 as a squad. And as a youth setup, I think we're probably in the top 3 or 4 for future youth quality.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do any of you think that Nottingham Forest have got a better squad than we do?
No, they got more players.
No.
That's probably about it.
No, they don't have a better squad. but they are set up
They've got a
very
more
well, and
balanced team, I think.
they play much more to a game plan than we do. And they know what their strengths are, and they play to those. They play to Elanga's strengths. They play to those forward strengths.
And that's the
But this
difference,
is-
isn't it?
But this is like, I think this is where football's more complicated. If you listed out all our players all the players in the league and you rank the top 100, Spurs would have more in the top 100 than Nottingham Forest. But I still think Nottingham Forest have a better balanced team. If that makes sense. Like, because we've got overlapping positions. We've got players like Kulusevski who don't fit in anywhere, but he's one of our best players. You've got Spence, who's like our best wing back, but he's a right wing back playing left wing back in the system. You've got Brennan Johnson, who's scoring 14. You've got Son, who's obviously a really good player because amount of goals he scores, but he doesn't fit the system at all. You've got like, I just find
We've
it's
got
all
6
like
8s and
lots
no
of really good
6s.
players. Yeah, you've got lots of really good midfielders, none who fit the system at all.
Yeah.
So like Bentancur would get is a good enough player. Like if you said Bentancur for Forest, be like, yeah, of course. But he doesn't fit our system, probably doesn't fit there. So actually their midfielders are probably a better choice for how they play and how we play. So it's kind of a weird one, if that makes sense. I just think the balance is all off in our squad. All off.
Yeah. I think this squad could be better if we didn't, if it was coached better. I mean, the thing about Forest is that he's coached to the level of the players, right? So he knows what he's got and he's coached to that. And he's found the formula. I still don't think they're going to finish top 4, by the way.
No,
I think
And their seasons are an anomaly too.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll revert back to the
think
mean next time anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And they'll get into the Europa League, and then they'll have 2 or 3 games a week, and they'll finish 17th.
I think Ange has done a great job with getting his philosophy, etc. The problem is it doesn't account for errors, I think, and that's where it lets the whole
Who
thing
was
down.
it put in the chat about the Jack Pitt-Brook analogy of the House of Cards? If Ange's football is almost like a house of cards, if there's one card out of place, the whole thing collapses.
Yeah.
If all the cards are in there and stable, it looks beautiful. It looks amazing until one card isn't doing its job, and then the whole thing falls down.
Yeah, I think it's just the wrong time for a manager like him. Unfortunately for him, it felt like the right time. But
it feels like, when we're watching today, it feels like that every pass, it's on the edge of being a bad pass. It could be an excellent pass, but it's on the edge of being a bad pass. We sort of seem to be stretching to get to the ball. We're never in control of it. We never seem to have the space that we afford the other team. It's almost like it's a training game where you're playing 9v11.
Alas, right, guys, I need to wrap it up because lovely roast pork is waiting for me, crackling and all. And if that's not your thing, well, I don't care. I love it. So
yeah, you're not coming. You're invited.
No,
fair enough.
Whatever you're having on your roasts or not roasts, wherever you are in the world. I hope you enjoy your Sunday meal. Try not to hope Spurs hasn't ruined it all for you. But yeah, we roll on. Yeah, up the Spurs, guys.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Oh, I didn't end the stream. Oh, and just a shout to where's at least MS? At least you're being sympathetic to me, mate. Where's is it Stuart? Yeah, Stuart's just going in 2-footed. I've been waiting for this moment. I'm after you. Yeah, well, you got me, mate. You got me. All right, up the bloody Spurs.